One. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are now live, and I am joined tonight by the one and only Kristin Iris Johnson, and her resume is extensive. She is a screenwriter, she is a showrunner, she is the creator of Wicked City on All Black and so many other things. And we are going to get into all of that. And I am joined, as always, by my absolutely amazing, phenomenal, fantastic, and I could go on, co-host Okima T. Moore. Welcome to a conversation with. I am your humble host. And again, tonight we are joined by screenwriter and showrunner Kristin Iris Johnson. And I just have so many questions for you because, as I said, your resume is so extensive, and I'm just ready to dive right in it. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So, Okima, how are you doing today, lovely young lady?
I'm in pre-production, so That's how I'm doing. That's how I'm doing.
I know that feeling.
Yes, I'm in pre-production for an independent project.
Wow.
So, yes,
okay,
I
but
have
you
no
know what?
commentary except I feel your pain.
Yeah, but you know, hey, but you're doing what you love.
Beautiful. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be fun. We're going to have a good time. It's just managing all the things for all the folks and all the things.
For sure.
Okay, but you know what? You're capable. You can do it. I have absolutely no problem that it's going to get done.
I mean, I don't have no choice but to do it.
That is the producer mindset right there. It's gonna get done.
Doing it is not an option. It's just the fact. It's the doing it part that you be like, I'm tired.
Been there, done that, and I'm kind of glad that I don't do that anymore. But you know what? While I was in it, it was phenomenal. But glad I don't do it anymore. But you know what? The show is not about me.
Or me.
We're here to talk to Miss Johnson about everything that she has going on. And one of the things that I like to ask my guests when they come on is, Kristin, how did you get started in the film business?
Yes. Interesting story. So I actually got started. I'll go a little bit before, and I'll try not to take too long with this story because I can definitely let the train run away. So I actually live with multiple disabilities, and in 2017, I was in physical therapy. I was struggling some days to walk. Some days I couldn't lift my arm. It was a lot of pain, usually couldn't sleep. And I also couldn't work. So I was in physical therapy, and it was a regular, everyday practice. So I was doing my physical therapy exercises one day, and I knew that I wanted to move into the film industry. That was something that had come back to me, actually, because I wanted to be a director when I was a teenager. And then in college, I moved away from it. I was like, I'm going to go write books. And then in 2016, 2017, I was like, no, I want to have a company, and I want to create pathways for other marginalized people, and was not working in the industry. It just came to me. I was like, yes, this is what I want to do. So one day I was doing my physical therapy exercises, and I was listening to a podcast that I don't normally listen to. And I was bored. I was looking for something new. And on that podcast, I heard a woman who was talking about how she had built a publishing company, and then she had from there started a film production company. Black woman. I was like, I've got to learn from her. So I reached out to her. She did not know me from anybody else. And I had some education in film writing, in screenwriting, not so much TV writing, but in screenwriting. And I had, been writing for years, mostly novels. None of them are published. Don't go looking for them. But I had been writing for a really long time. So I reached out to her, and she actually got back to me. So I had sent her this email. I made her a video. I was like, here's all the things I know how to do. And she was like, yep, God put this person in my path for a reason. So I ended up working for her as a remote work intern I was in Chicago at the time. She was in Maryland. And that was for about 6 months before I was brought out to be associate producer on my first professional feature film project. And from there, I continued working with her, working with the company, developing projects, producing projects. So I really started more on the producing side, even though I had many more years experience and knowledge in writing. I didn't know anything about producing. So I was working as a producer under her, learning everything that I could, eventually became the VP of development and production of that company. Which that was in 2022, I think. And I actually resigned last June so that I can go independent and pursue other avenues. But yeah, like I ended up working with them for years. And that's really how I got started in the film industry was, I took a chance. I was like, I am living out of a suitcase, out of my friend's apartment, rent-free, because I don't have a job, because I can't work, because I'm physically not able. But I wanna do what she's doing. Mm-hmm. So I took a chance on myself and reached out to her, and she took a chance on me. And, it worked out. So here I am.
Wow.
I think that's so underrated. Betting on yourself. Like we always have, I think we talked about this with another guest not too long ago, how, you have your friends and your family who mean so much, they mean well, but they will be like, oh, that's crazy. That's not going to work. Nobody actually if they don't know anyone that does this, that works in film and television or like has had this success. And even sometimes if they do, if they can't, they only see you as large as they see themselves. And so sometimes you have people that will discourage you or tell you like, it doesn't make sense or don't do it. It's not going to work. And so we get discouraged and we don't always kind of bet on ourselves. And like you took this leap and was like, you know what? Even with all that I have going on, I know I can do this thing. And sometimes the universe, once you make the decision, a lot of times once you make the decision, the universe, God, whatever you call it, whoever it is, will make the decision to be like, oh, you've decided. Okay, fine. I was just waiting for you to do that. And now let's go. And so you went from, apartment ridden from this, that, and the third to VP of development. Okay.
Yes. And the thing is, so I think that I was, I got to credit my parents in a way. Like my mom always was like, if I want to do something, she's like, that sounds great. Go do it. Like she was like, okay, let's be practical, but like, how do we do this practically? She was like, let's be realistic. Like you also have to pay bills, but how can you make this happen? And so I feel like my mom always encouraged. And there was like a period of time, like a particular period of time when I was a kid that my dad was very like about like goals and these big goals. And you got to set a goal and you got to meet that goal. And like, he just got super motivated. I think he had just kicked like a cocaine addiction. And he was like, found God and was like found like motivate. I don't know. He was like really motivated or something. But he was, and I was like, yeah, goals. That sounds great. I want to build a great life. And like from childhood, I think that kind of stuck with me. And then, being raised by my mom, she was just like, yeah, okay. You want to do that? That sounds cool. Tell me more about it. And I don't think there was anything that she ever made me feel like I couldn't do it, and it was always unconventional stuff. It was never like, I want to be an accountant, or I want to be a lawyer. It was like, I want to be a model. I know I'm too short, but I want to be a model. And she was like, okay, let's go do modeling things.
That is phenomenal because oftentimes, as parents, I'm a dad of two. They're both adults. But as a parent, the thing that you want most for your children is you want to see them succeed. And you do your best while they're growing to put them in a position where they can. So when you go to your mom with such an unconventional avenue, and the fact that she was so supportive is rare because most parents will say, well, they hiring, and here I go, they hiring at the post office, right? So why can't you get that good government job? Now, and I'm someone who worked in the public sector for 31 and a half years. So,
and now look, Look at that, Boomer. Them government jobs ain't so good these days, huh?
No, they're not.
You got out right on time, honey.
Yes, I did, which is interesting. But going back to, the support system. So when you decided to pursue this, and you're on the couch, and you're going through what you're going through, what was your mindset like? You said you didn't have certain experience, but you knew you wanted to do it. So you contact. Can we say her name?
Yeah. So Tressa Smallwood.
Okay. So you contact Miss Smallwood, and you reach out and you say, "Hey, Kristin Johnson here. I want to do this." So no hesitation whatsoever.
Oh no, there was hesitation a little bit.
Okay.
Because I was like, oh, I can't reach out to her. Who am I to, contact this executive producer when I'm, poor and living out of a suitcase because I can't work a regular job? And then I had that thought. And then I was like, well, she don't know I'm living out of a suitcase. And, I'm not going to stay here living out of a suitcase. This is just where I'm at right now until I figure out what the hell is wrong with my back. And really, it was just like the worst she doesn't know any of that. The worst she could say is no.
Mm-hmm.
Or actually, no, my thought was the worst that could happen is she doesn't respond. I'm like, the chances that she's going to respond or the chances she's going to say yes is small, but I could at least reach out, because if I reach out and she says no, I'm in the same place I'm in now. But if I don't reach out, I'm never going to know. So like, I know I'm not going to stay here. I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know why this pain will not go away. I don't know. But I knew that I was not going to stay in that state. And I was not going to stay in that place forever. So I was always like, where am I going? And that's why I had a daily visualization practice. That's why this is where it came from, this idea of like, oh, I want to have my own production company, my own multimedia company, which I don't necessarily want to do that anymore. It's been a while, and my dreams have changed. But at that time, that was because I kept visualizing every day, like, where do I want to be in 5 years? What's it feel like? Where am I living? And I was imagining it every day, like I was living it every single day. That was part of my daily practice. In the morning, I'd get up, I do my physical therapy exercises, I do my morning routine. Part of that was journaling and visualization. And I did that every day. And as I did that, the dreams started getting bigger and bigger. Mm-hmm. And they started to feel more possible despite my circumstances. So when I listened to that podcast, I was like, yeah, this is the universe being like, hey girl, you were talking about that 10 years from now dream? Well, we got something for you. Go learn from this person. And I was just like, I guess I'm moving in that dream now. I guess it's not going to be a 10-year dream. I guess it is a now dream. Go take a step. And that's what I did. But honestly, if I had not been in that vision every day, I wouldn't even have been thinking that big. I would have been wallowing. And I had my moments where I was just like, what's wrong? This is so awful. I hate this. But I never really stayed there. But if I wasn't in that constant practice, which I still do today, I still do that as a daily practice, it would not even have felt possible probably to even reach out to her. But because I had dreams that were so much bigger, it was like, this is a little step. If I don't take this, I don't deserve the dream.
See, and that's the other thing that we don't realize is that, once you assign yourself to more, then more comes after the more.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I like that. Once you assign, I'm gonna have to. Once you assign yourself to more, give me a second. I'm writing that down because you know what that is so true. And
thus.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Yeah, and you know what that is so true because oftentimes you sell yourself short before you even attempt it.
You psych yourself out.
Yep.
Now think about
so many times we say no to ourselves before somebody else can say no to us. Oh, I can't do that because I can't do this because I used to do that I still do it. I did it like 3 months ago. And one of my friends was like, girl, what do you mean? I was like, I am so sorry. Let me get it together. Thank you for checking me. I am back on track.
Well, when we talk, I'll be like, let's adjust that language. Or you'll be like, don't say that. So Kristin and I have our powwows, what, every couple months?
Yeah.
If I'm not in her class, then we have powwows every couple months, just sister to sister. So yeah. But with that, so you take this leap, you're doing all these things that you've never done before, in this way, at this level. Tell me what was the thing that was in your mind unrelated to what you needed, what you thought you were supposed to do or should be doing, that taught you the most about what you're doing? With random question, but I feel like it always happens that you're in the midst of doing a thing. Like there's always some random thing that you're doing that's a part of your job, and you're just like, what does this have to do with what I'm supposed to be doing? And it's the lesson.
Well, man, in terms of the work that I've done as a producer, I'm not sure that there is one, because I think everything has been like, okay, I need to learn this, even if I don't use it, even if I'm not the one doing it later, I need to know how this works. So I think in terms of that work, I wouldn't necessarily say anything, but your question has sparked something else for me, which is martial arts. I think that I have learned so much from martial arts and martial arts training, boxing training, that has given me and helped me build the mental fortitude to navigate this industry.
Yeah, because if y'all don't know, Kristin's abs have abs.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why.
So I am a 3rd-degree black belt. I trained martial arts for many years, and I'm also a Golden Gloves boxing, a Chicago Golden Gloves boxing champ, not national. And the work and the mental, I don't even know how to describe it. The challenge physically and mentally to get to black belt. And I had to test twice because they failed me the first time. So the psychological battlefield that I had to go through to get my black belt, and after which I did, like, if I hadn't gotten my black belt, or if I got my black belt on the first test, I probably wouldn't have done the Golden Gloves. But because I had to go back and do the things that were really challenging that I failed, I was failed on the first time, it put me in a position to be like, yeah, I want to challenge myself more. So I would say, honestly, that, like, you would think martial arts doesn't necessarily have anything to do with producing or writing. But let me tell you, when we were writing season 1 of Wicked City, and we had these crazy deadlines, and we were regularly having breakdowns and not sleeping and not eating because we were just writing. I had multiple moments where I was like, oh my God, I think this is the hardest thing I've ever done. And immediately following that thought, I would say, nah, I tested for black belt twice. If I can do that, I can do this. And then I would just get back to whatever it is that I needed to do. So I would say that I have learned probably so much from martial arts and martial arts training that prepared me for the challenges that I face as a producer and as a writer.
Yeah, I mean, black belt twice. Yeah.
Wow. That's interesting. But I was listening to an interview that you did, and you were talking about how you're into personal development. And, you know, as you were describing, you know, martial arts and competing for the Golden Gloves, that brought that to mind, because that's all personal development. So when you're sitting on the set and things aren't going well, the fact that you've been in iron sharpens iron types of situations where you've exercised your mind muscle, because oftentimes it's a mental thing. You know, okay, the deadline is approaching and we're nowhere near it, but guess what? The deadline is approaching. So now how do I react to this? And the fact that you tested twice for the martial arts, and the fact that you failed the first time, which led you to the Golden Gloves, which gave you an extra layer of mental and personal discipline, so that then you went back and passed the black belt.
Other way around. I tested the second time.
Okay.
Yeah, but in testing the second time, and then once I passed, having to go back through and do some of the things that were most challenging, I was like, oh, let's take this further. And that's when I decided to start fighting.
Right. Okay. Messed that up a little bit, but thank you so much for correcting me. But doing all of that, so now when you're on a set, you're saying to yourself, I got this.
Sometimes.
Mhm.
I think when I'm honest, I think when I'm honest, I would love to say that I'm cool as a cucumber, but like anybody who knows me knows that I'm like neurotic as hell. Uh, and part of that is also because I'm autistic, so like I am very meticulous about things. I'm very detailed. I have like a high. I want things to be excellent, right? And so sometimes when issues come up on set, it's like I'll try to be cool, but like, it's like the duck, like the duck on the surface of the water is just chilling, but like underneath the feet are like, ooh, and they're going and going. That's like me, and sometimes people can see the feet going and sometimes they can't. But sometimes it's like, ooh, I'm like, okay, I just got to like go for a walk. But I think it's even through that, there's always we're going to figure it out. Like, even if I'm like, oh my God, what are we going to do? We're like, usually I don't do that because, we always figure it out, like whoever it is that I'm on set with. But sometimes there'll be an issue where it's like, okay, all right, okay, interesting. Let's solve that one. And then sometimes there'll be an issue that's like, what are we going to do? But every time, regardless, I'm like, well, we always figure it out. Like, I'm always going to figure it out. Somebody, the team's going to figure it out. I always have faith that we're going to figure it out because we always do. And even if I have that initial moment of like, because things are now not what I expected, it's like, okay, like we're going to get past that initial moment and now let's get to work. So, but yeah, I think in general, it did prepare me for that. And just all of it. There's so much, I mean, even in this industry, there's so much rejection that happens. There's so much of like, especially, like as Black creators, there's so much diminishing of our talent or our value that I think having also failed the test the first time and that being like the single greatest and most humiliating failure of my life, that, coming through that, it's not that it doesn't hurt when things happen, but like, that you're strong enough to handle it. And so for me, I'm like, I know I'm strong enough to handle it. I know that like whatever's going on, my team's going to figure it out. I'll figure it out on the creative side. Okay, what do we have to do to this script? What do we have to do to the scene? How do we have to change it? If it's a logistical thing, like, okay, they're going to figure out how to get the camera truck out of the mud. Great, they got that. I'm going to handle this over here, and we know that it's like a group effort and we'll figure it out. Well,
that is very true because 90%, 99.5% of the time you figure it out. But speaking of the magic of figuring it out, let's talk about magic, period. Let's talk about Wicked City a little bit. As a, girl who grew up watching the Charmed of it all, and being obsessed, I think Charmed was actually one of the first big auditions I had as an actor. Didn't book it, but because I was still green. But I was so enamored by what was going on. And so I learned about Wicked City before I knew you. And I think it was after I knew Tressa, but before I had met you. And I watched the first season and I was like, and I watched the first season because I was auditioning. And I was like, I gotta, I was auditioning for a second season, but I was watching the first season. I was like, oh my God, I gotta catch up on the show. And I was obsessed. Yay. Tell me a little bit about, the way y'all left off season 3. I'm not talking. I'm not speaking to you, and there better be a season.
I know.
Not like that. Okay, that's very Judy went up the stairs and what happened. Talk to me about developing that type of project and getting someone to buy into it, because we don't get to be magical.
We don't. So first of all, we knew that we had an opportunity to pitch something to the network because they were looking for a TV series. They wanted something that was going to appeal to their base, but was different, something they didn't already have. And I was like, they don't have supernatural and we can do Black witches. So I had the idea. I was like, Black witches, which is not an idea. That's a concept. All right. And I was like, yes, Black witches. And like that's all I had for 5 days. And then I was like, okay, I know I can come up with a story here. Let me bring somebody else in. So I actually connected with Serena M. Lee, who is my co-creator on the show, and I was like, hey, we have an opportunity to maybe pitch a show to all Black, and do you want to go in with me? I want to do something on Black witches. She said, hell yeah. So we started, in bouncing ideas off of her, we came up with like, okay, now here's the concept for the show. Like, here's the actual idea. And when we pitched that to Tressa, executive producer, she was like, again, logline synopsis, it's like all we had. She was like, yeah, okay. She's like, yep, develop it, get me a pitch deck, and we'll see if they're interested. So we got a team together. We worked on developing the season. We were really focused on the character development. I knew that this was an opportunity, which is why I knew it was an opportunity to bring Black supernatural that centered Black women. And this was a chance for us to show complex, nuanced, layered Black women that also subvert stereotypes and subvert ideas of what we are expected to be or what we have already seen so much of. And so it was really important to us in the development. We started with the character development is how do we make them all different? How do we make them all diverse? And how can we spin some of the narratives that you normally see and spin it on its head and bring it into a supernatural way, in a way that represents Black women with more accuracy and more humanity? And I think we succeeded. So that was how we developed it. And then Serena, because she's a designer, she put together the deck. The deck was sent to the network. We didn't hear anything for months, right? We didn't hear anything for months. We didn't know if they liked it. We didn't know if they wanted to do something. And ours wasn't the only one. There were like 2 other decks that were sent. And like the last week of the year, that was 2021. So we had done this in August and we sent it by like, early September, I think. So by the end of the year, we found out that, they want to do a show. They were picking ours. They were like, look, this is not the kind of show we normally do. It's a bit of a risk, but we believe in the show and we want to go forward with it. Yes. So that was like New Year's Eve or something like that. Yeah, New Year's Eve. And we went immediately into writing. Again, we had a crazy writing schedule. They went immediately into production and it aired 11 months later on December 1st of 2022. Yeah, very, very fast. They were like, we want it now. We want it. Give it. We need the episodes. We want it now. It's like, oh my God. So, yep, it aired December 1st and people liked it. So we got 2 more seasons.
Wow. So now you're the main writer on the show. So with them.
Well, me and Serena we're co-creators and we co-wrote every episode in season 1. Most of the episodes in season 2, I wrote episode 5. And then in season 3, we did have a couple of other writers, but we had changed things up in season 3. And it kind of, even though we developed it all together, there were different people penning episodes. So, it worked just kind of different ways depending on the season.
So can you speak to the rapidity of the turnaround once they said, okay, we want the show and we want it now? Can you talk about what it takes to be prepared for that type of, I guess you would say, I don't even know if I want to call it a demand because you pitched it, they wanted it, and now you have to deliver. But can you talk about what it takes to prepare yourself for when the studio says, okay, we want something, deliver it, and this is the time frame in which you have to deliver it?
Yeah, we were not prepared. So they were like, okay, we want the first 3 episodes in 2 weeks and we want the next 3 episodes in 4 weeks. And because season 1 was 6 episodes. And even Tressa was like, that's not realistic. She's like, that's not realistic. That we're not going to be able to do that. And I was like, okay. She's like, what do you guys think is a realistic time period. I was like, I think we can do the first 3 episodes in 4 weeks and the last 3 episodes in, the 4 weeks after that. That sounded like a great plan. And it turns out that was actually still very grueling. Now, you have to keep in mind, Serena at that time, she had 2 kids that were in high school. They were still in school, still in the house, and a full-time job. I was in post-production for 2 projects, and I was in pre-production technically for 5 projects that were all shooting in like the next 2.5 months. So yeah, it was, oh my God. So I was like, yeah, I can totally do this. And as we got into it, I was like, oh, wow. Did I not know how this was going to go? But we stayed in it. We put our heads down. We kept going. The other thing was we had planned it and we had developed it for like 60-minute episodes, and we only had 30 minutes. They were like, you got to bring this down 30 minutes. So about 30 pages. When you watch the show, the episodes are longer, but it is written as a 30-minute show. It is just that, the way our director works and like the way he works with the DP, they get this like other like, beautiful footage. And, so that lengthens it out a little bit. But yeah, so it was grueling, but it was really like, Serena and I were both like, we both have an incredible work ethic, right? And we knew what this opportunity was. We knew what this could mean to other people once it was on air. We knew that this was going to make people feel seen, that this was something that people would want, and it could potentially open pathways for other shows, other movies, other creators like us, to put more things out there. And we didn't want to waste it. And so it was just like, you just got to go. Like, people are relying on you. We're relying on each other. Like the future who doesn't know that they're relying on the show is relying on the show, like no pressure, but
that's a lot of pressure.
I know. But I was like, come on, we got to go. And we just kept going. So it's really, I think, just having, decades at that point of having to hustle and bust our asses, we were able to like really commit. If it had been somebody else and they were like, yo, this is too much for me, and walked away, I'd be like, I'm writing these episodes by myself, like, but we were both like, okay, let's go. We're doing it. And we actually like built, because we didn't really know each other that well before that. Like we had met on set, but we weren't friends. We didn't really know each other. I just knew she was into the same stuff that I was, and I was like, hey, you want to do this? Let's do it. And now like, we're actually like, we're really, really good friends. She's one of my closest friends.
That's crazy, but also crazy in a good way. And when you go through something that is that heavy and, demanding, even if it's, the end result is seeing a dream, right? And like seeing your work in real time on television, like weekly, like, you know what I mean? Because
into the holiday, baby. I said, right. It's Christmas and we watching a show.
Right. So like, because that's the other like cool thing with, with the absence of appointment television from back in the day, releasing it weekly still kind of gives you that energy. Not the same, but not like binging the whole series in like one weekend or whatever.
Yeah.
But with all of that, you then continue to make films as well. And then you get to a place where you're like, I want to go off and do something different. Talk a little bit about that pivot, because most people don't understand the leave while you're on top part.
Yeah. So, God, that's a really good question. So we did Wicked City season 1. And then in season 2, I was actually on set for all of it except the first 2 days. And season 2, we had 8 episodes. We had a longer shoot schedule. It was much more respectful. Season 1 was like extremely disrespectful shoot schedule. But season 2, we had a longer shoot schedule. It was 8 weeks. And I was actually there every day. And I was working really closely with our director, Dale S. Lewis. And, the way that I was operating, like in my head, I'm like, I'm in creative producer mode. But really a lot of what I was doing was showrunner work. And so as I was doing that and I was involved in a certain capacity, I was like, oh, I'm actually really good at this and I'm really enjoying this and I want to do more of it. And so I started learning more, mentoring more under other people about show running, and when we get into season 3, I was even more prepared. So like season 3, I was really running the writer's room. I was the one who was responsible for, reviewing all of the episodes that came in. I also had to do, if, revisions or notes came back from the network. It was between me and that person, but like I really had to do the final, like the final cleaning up. And then I was doing a lot more. I was even more involved than in season 2, more involved in terms of like the creative conversations and bringing in things that I had learned about this is what a showrunner typically does. And I was like, hey, we should do this because it's going to head off some of the problems that we had in season 1 and 2. And, our director was like, yeah, absolutely. Like that's the norm. Let's do it. And so going into season 3, I was like, yep, still love it. But I knew, but even before we started shooting season 3, I was like, this is the direction that I'm going. I actually don't want to be a development executive. I appreciated my time doing it. I appreciated being able to help other writers and shepherd their stories into the world. But I was like, I am a creative. I want to be able to do more on the creative side, and I want to do more in television. I'm like, I want to show run other shows. And I knew that I wasn't going to be able to do that while I was being, head of development of a production company. So, and honestly, I was also very burnt out. I was very, very burnt out. And it was affecting every other area of my life. And I'm like, I can't keep trying to do all of the things at once. Something has to give. And if I know, as much as I appreciate everything I've learned from her, from this company, from my time here, and everything that I've done, if I know that this is not what I really want to do, I need to clear the way for me to go do what it is that I really want to do. And I already had there were like 2 other shows that were like, hey, we want you to show run. And I would, and they were in development. So it's not like, oh, it's greenlit. And, it wasn't like that where it was a sure thing. I was really like taking the leap in terms of resigning. I had just also finished like producing a feature film, which actually airs at the end of this month, Fighting to Be Me, the Dwayne Curry story. We're very excited about that one. So we had just finished that like June 1st or something, finished
That's
shooting
where we
that.
met
It was
in
in
person.
post-production. What?
I said that's where we first met in person.
Yes. And I think that was on the last day too. I think we met on the last day of shooting.
Yep. I was too shy to talk to her, so I didn't. And now we run our mouths all the time.
I know, we do. So after that, I think I took like a week break. Went to ABFF right after that, and then after ABFF, I was like, okay. And I knew in the December, I knew not last December because it's 2025. I knew December of 2023. I was like, oh, I'm going to resign this year. Like, I know that that's what I need to do to go in the direction I want to go. And I was like, all right, I had a goal. I wanted to do it in June. So I wanted to like get certain things prepared, and like June came and I was like, okay, like it's time for me to resign. And, I did. I mean, I'm still obviously still connected with that project. But yeah, I resigned, like everything's on good terms, and super appreciative of my time there. And after that, I was like, all right, okay, I'm taking the leap. I'm like leaving the nest, that was like my first film home. And I'm like, yes, I'm leaving the nest. Let me fly. And immediately off of that, there were like different things that were coming my way. I was like, whoa, what's going on? Like projects are coming at me that I didn't expect from people I don't know. So yeah, sometimes I think when you just, like you said, when you assign something to yourself, or when you like make a decision, and it's not just like a decision, I'm going to do this, but it's also a decision, I'm going to stop doing this. I'm going to let this thing go and open the pathway for something else, then those things start to come in.
You said something very interesting just now. Projects coming to you from people you did not know.
Yes.
Talk about having and maintaining a high level of professionalism. Because one of the things that I always say is you never know who's watching. So the fact that you're being offered jobs and opportunities from people that you don't know and that you haven't met speaks to the work that you've put in, the work that you do, and your high professional ethics. So if someone who is just getting in this business is watching this, what would you say to them regarding that?
I would say so. Gosh, that's an interesting question. I think there's an element to professionalism, but there's also an element to authenticity, because I think professionalism gets viewed as like you have to be a certain kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
And that certain kind of like buttoned up, I'm super about business and like I never let my hair down. And like that's not me. I'm a big old dork, right? Um, so like you see me online and I'm like, oh my God, guys, like I'm trying to do this script and like, but I'm showing, I'm being real. And then there's also like, I think there's an element of like the work that I've done, my work ethic, but also I try to present myself as authentically as I can in terms of being who I am and not being just like what I think people want me to be, because that is not going to work. I know it's not going to work. I am autistic. It's not going to, eventually we're going to work together and you're going to see my weird flag fly and you're going to be like, what's going on? I thought you were like the business suit type of woman. And it's like, maybe on Tuesdays and then on Wednesdays, who knows? It's weird. So I think that you have to be authentic, but also being authentic, being kind, being, I want to say generous, but gosh, I'm sorry. I can't find like the right words, but professionalism, but also authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
And so knowing how to approach people, knowing how to operate in different environments and being helpful, being, like being as helpful as you can. I think that people see that, but also bringing your best work, not being arrogant. Arrogance usually gets people in trouble because there's always somebody who knows more than you, honey. There is always someone who knows more than you. So yeah, I think there's a balance between like professionalism, knowing how to approach certain situations or learning, and also just being who you really are. And honestly, I'll be honest, like sometimes I'll say, hey, I'm not really sure what that means, or I'm not sure what that is. Like if I don't know something, I'll fake things to a point where I'll be like, okay, now let me go find out from somebody.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm not going to fake and be like, oh yeah, I totally know how to do a budget if I don't know how to do a budget. I mean, I do know how to do a budget, but I'm not going to say that I really know how to do something if I don't actually know how to do it. I think that it's more important to try and find people to learn from as well. But I have, on the subject of professionalism, I have had some people show up in my inbox with some very weird emails. Like, hi, I'm looking for feedback from industry professionals. Script attached, no punctuation. That's also not a question. That's a statement. That's not a question. What do you want from me? Are you looking for me to give you feedback? Because the answer is no, by the way. But no, like things like that where I'm like, what? How did you think that was okay?
You can't pick my brain, but you can't pick your price. This is my business.
Yes.
Can we get some bars so we get some mics to drop, please?
Like that is my favorite saying to everyone. Like I have a consultation price list because I can't read your 150-page script for free in the midst of my life being wherever my life is. So I totally get that. And thank you for bringing that up. Actually, I love two things, right? I love, so I think that my host and I complement each other very well. And so when he said professionalism, I both clapped and cringed. Clap because I get where he's coming from, but I also cringed because the idea of professionalism from what it used to mean to what it means to me today is so different.
Mm-hmm.
And so thank you for addressing that. Professionalism is showing up as your most authentic self, understanding that you also have to acquiesce to the other people in the room to a degree. Yes. Right? But what also professionalism is not sending me an email with your script. First of all, you don't even know me. You have now sent me unsolicited material that I don't even, did you copyright it? Do you?
I know, like I'm not touching this. This is a liability. Leave me alone.
When I get that, I literally write back, please note, I do not read, open, or introduce myself to any unsolicited materials. If you would like to schedule a consultation, email at blah, blah, blah. Because what if I have something just like what you're sending me already in my pipeline? Yep. I ain't got time for that.
Mm-hmm. Yes. This is why you do not send unsolicited scripts. Get the person to say, yeah, I'm interested. Send that before you send it. It is not, it is not good etiquette.
That allows you to do this. Yes. You know what I mean? Like, but speaking of these places and spaces where you can share, talk to us about your other program, business, life, how you are servicing the creative community from the inside out.
Yes. So I have an online community called Black Screenwriter Alliance. It is a membership community. We have 2 options for membership, but what Black Screenwriter Alliance is it's really an online space where we are bringing together emerging Black screenwriters who are serious about growing a career in the industry and bringing them together so that they can connect, they can learn, they can develop stronger portfolios, build industry relationships, and learn to forge a path in the industry that works for you. So there are different paths in the industry, and I want to like debunk this myth that like you have to have an agent. I don't have an agent. I've never had an agent. I don't even have a manager. And I have 3 seasons of a TV series on a network. So you don't need to have an agent, but that path into the industry or one person's path into the industry may not be yours. And I think as Black creators in particular, we need to start opening our minds and expanding our ideas of how we can get there, but we need community to do it because the knowledge that you're going to get from being around a group of people is much more than you're going to get from one person. So that's the idea with this community is, you know, we have learning opportunities like workshops, industry guests, things like that. But it's really about cultivating a space where you also are a source of knowledge, where every person becomes a source of knowledge so that we start to broaden the pool and open up what you can learn and what you have access to that will help you in the industry, and understanding that everybody's got some kind of gift, everybody's got a strength, or everybody's got a piece of knowledge that somebody else can use. If somebody's writing a boxing script, guess what, baby? I used to be a boxer. Okay. And that has nothing to do with film production, but that's something that can inform someone's script and bring authenticity to it. And so as you cultivate those people, like me and Serena, we're such good friends now, you know, like we're stuck with each other for life, having worked together. When you can have those people around you that you trust, there's so much more that's possible when we work in collaboration instead of in competition. And that is the idea with what we are doing in Black Screenwriter Alliance. So it just relaunched in January. You know, people can go to blackscreenwriteralliance.mn.co to check out our options, and you can try 7 days free as well.
So let me ask you this. How are you able to stay constant, or are you able to stay relevant and working in an industry that is constantly shifting? How are you able to stay relevant and working with the ground shifting the way it is in Hollywood? How do you do that?
I mean, so the first thing in terms of relevance is I think there is this pervasive idea, especially I want to say it's more among like actors and on-screen talent of like, you got to go do the next thing because like people are going to forget about you. And I don't know how true it is, but I am not going to let myself live into that. Yes, I do want to do the next thing. I want to find the next project, but I work in development. I work, as a writer, as a showrunner, this is the long game. Camera ops, for example, they can be on a project for 6 weeks. They can bounce right to the next project. For what I do, I can't do that. I might be on a project for 3 years before anybody sees it on screen. Mm-hmm. So this idea of like staying in front of and being relevant, it's like, yes, I want to keep doing work, but I want to do quality work, and I want to be mindful of the projects that I'm choosing. I don't want to just take on any project because it's a job. I'm not saying I will turn down. If a project comes my way, I might be like, hey, let's get this done. But I think that this fear of relevance can lead people down a path that they don't necessarily want to go. And for me, especially knowing that the way that I have operated in the past leading to burnout, and like, I'm getting close to that now, that I have to be mindful of that in the future, that there are going to be times where I'm like, I actually just don't want a project right now. Mm-hmm. Like what I need is to take a break. I'm not there right now, but I am keeping that in my mind because I am someone who works and works and works until I burn out. And I know that's not healthy. So I'm trying to keep things in my mind that like, there will be times where I will want to take a break, and it is okay to take a break, because the work that I do, again, that's the long game. I'm working with a team right now. We're in development on a series that I'm show running, and we've been working on this for a year already. Like we started about a year ago. And that's how sometimes everything doesn't move as fast as Wicked City. Sometimes things move slow. So for what I do and the work I do, I can't always worry about, I have to be in front of these people, or I have to grab another job so that people know that like, I'm doing something, because I'm not on screen talent. People aren't like looking at me quite like that. I want to keep moving projects forward, but it's not like, Cameron Diaz disappeared for 10 years. Guess what? She just came back and did a movie with like Jamie Foxx. So I do want to keep moving, I keep pushing forward, but I'm also being mindful of the projects that I take on, and also being realistic that some of these projects take a really long time.
Yeah.
I wish they didn't, to be honest. But some of them do. Sometimes a job comes in and it's like, woo, I'm done in 2 weeks. Like, knocked out that script, let's go. And sometimes it's like, all right, we're in for a ride, especially for a TV series. Psh, baby, that's a ride. Let's go.
What do you want our viewers, listeners, because you can watch us or you can just listen. What do you want them to take away knowing about Kristin? And yeah, I think that's my first part of that question. What do you want our audience to take away with them about Kristin?
About me, I'm not sure.
Your work, however you want to set that up. Like, I know when I listen to this kind of podcast, hours, but this type of podcast with a guest that does something I'm interested in, or something that I do, or something that I want to do, I always try to have a takeaway about either what they do, how I can follow what they do, how I can support what they do, how I can emulate what they do, or how I can be inspired by what they've done. So like with that in mind, what do you want one of the takeaways from today to maybe the people that don't know you, or maybe even the people that do?
Yeah. So what comes to mind from that is, for me, it's less about what you can take about me and more about what from my story and the things that I've said can you take into your own life. Whether it is like, oh, I got to let this thing go because it's actually not the right fit for me. And maybe I don't let it go right now, but maybe I'm going to get ready in 3 months to let it go. Whether it's, I've been sitting here wallowing and feeling bad for myself, and like, maybe I need to get in my vision. Whatever it is, or like, oh, this thing that I think is like a deficit or a flaw, like maybe there's a gift that I can find in it. Whatever it is from this story that you can apply to your life to move you forward or move you to a place of more joy or abundance or liberation, that's what I want people to take, because that's what I want to bring. I've been saying this to myself for years. I don't remember exactly where it came from, but it kind of synthesized into this phrase. I actually even have it on my phone as my wallpaper. And it says, I am a catalyzer for liberation, joy, and power. And I have this here. I've been saying that to myself for years. And I have this on my phone as a constant reminder that that is what I am here for. That is what I am doing. And that means through my art and through my life and through whatever it is that I can facilitate for other people, whether that is connecting them to others and building community for them, whether that's inspiring them with my story, whether it's having them feel seen and heard by watching a character in one of my shows, is I want to be a catalyzer for liberation, joy, and power, and for people to feel more. How can I move to more liberation? How can I live in more joy? How can I feel and understand my power that I have been denying, or that other people have been denying, and stop making myself small? That is really what I would love for people to take from this.
Beautiful.
Wow.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
And now tell us where we can find you and experience, your program and like your work and all the things.
Yes, absolutely. So you can follow me on Instagram at Kristin Iris, although I'm on a little bit of a social media break right now. I just needed to I needed to take a pause. It was a little crazy. But you can find me there. You can also find me on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn as Kristin Iris Johnson. You can join or check out Black Screenwriter Alliance at blackscreenwriteralliance.mn.co. All the details are there. And also YouTube. So I have a new YouTube, and that is youtube.com/@ like the symbol at Black Screenwriter Alliance. I think that's it. Yes, so that's where you can find me. Find Black Screenwriter Alliance, check out, connect. Yeah.
Wow. So we're about to wrap this up, but before we go, someone in the audience, post the Crown Act docuseries, asked the question: which was harder, writing a show like Wicked or Showrunner, and how do you approach the different roles?
So being a showrunner and writing a TV series those two things are linked. So while I'm not like the official showrunner of Wicked City, I did a lot of the showrunner type of work in season 2 and in particular season 3, but your showrunner is responsible for the story. The showrunner is the creative lead of the project. So like they don't, in terms of writing, you can write for TV and not be a showrunner. You can't really be a showrunner and not write. I don't think that's a thing. If it is, that is a surprise to me.
You can guide, you can but you still have to you have to know how to write, because you're still
responsible for the story.
Yeah, and you're still making sure that it's good.
Yes, exactly. Like they're like as like the showrunner's right. So which one is harder? I mean, the showrunner is the bigger job. Like the showrunning is definitely harder than just writing for television, but it's not like two completely separate things. It's harder because you're writing, you're guiding everybody else, you're overseeing all of it, and then all of the other creative elements through every level of production. Yeah, so they're linked, but writing for television, I think if I was just writing, that's just like a very different capacity than how I was actually operating.
I think their handle kind of gives away why they asked it in that way, because it seems like they have a doc. And so in doc series, you can be a showrunner and not necessarily be the person that wrote the show.
Gotcha. Okay.
So in my mind, they're asking because they already live in that other duality. But to this viewer, in the scripted world, it's like this, and in doc, it can be like this or like this. So yeah, just for this viewer that asked the question, in case they weren't familiar.
Gotcha. So yeah, let me clarify: scripted, narrative, fiction, not I mean, I haven't worked on the unscripted side at all, actually, so I really don't know what that world is like. But yes, on the scripted fiction side, they're pretty much linked.
Well, this has been absolutely amazing. This has been an absolute masterclass, and I have learned so much tonight. And it was just such an honor to have you on our show. We would love to have you come back because you have so much going on. Of course, I'm following you on IG and I'm learning so much from you over there. And ladies and gentlemen, you just did a webinar not too long ago for screenwriters. Kristin?
I did a workshop, an interactive visualization workshop. So yeah, okay.
10 out of 10, recommend.
Yes, I just did that in December, and then I did it again in January.
Okay, so now will that be an ongoing thing, or?
I mean, I will probably do it again at some point, but it's not regularly scheduled. My regular workshops and learning opportunities are really inside Black Screenwriter Alliance. So I will have the occasional public workshop, but mostly those are where you do where I have like the learning opportunities are inside.
So what that means is you have to go join the Black Screenwriters Alliance. And here's the thing. Let me say this before we wrap this up. And correct me if I'm wrong. If you're not a screenwriter, I would highly recommend that you join anyway. First, to learn how to screenwrite, because if you're an actor, it would behoove you to learn how a script is written and every other thing. But also the main takeaway for me is this. You're building relationships. You're building relationships and you're building community, because you may be an actor looking for a writer. You may be a writer ready to produce your work and you need actors. So I would highly, highly, highly recommend joining the Black Screenwriters Alliance. And with everything that's going on right now, and I'm speaking directly to Black people, with everything that is going on right now, we need as much community as we can possibly get. So anywhere that you can find phenomenal people with a like-minded mindset, that is definitely something that you would definitely want to join. But again, Kristin, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day. This was such a phenomenal discussion that we've had for the past hour. And it was just such a pleasure having you on. So, Okima, did you have any last words for us?
No, I agree with what you said. I will say, because I know the Black Screenwriter Alliance is very much geared towards people that are serious about becoming screenwriters. If you are not a screenwriter and you are overseeing writers, I would say make sure you join her workshops and then send your writers. If you're the producer, if you're the EP, send the people that you know that want to do this that her way, because then you'll have a lot. I promise it'll cut some of your development time. Just saying. But no, I always enjoy talking to you, whether it's one-on-one or in a workshop or now in this forum. Thank you so much for coming on our show, for sharing with our folks, for the heart that you have for the community. Like I always appreciate creatives, especially, and we didn't really touch on it, but like your activism in the queer space, your activism for creatives of color, like all of those things, your love for the community and communal work really helps us have a support system and a soft place to land, because this issue is hard, right? And so having places to go to get, fed from in here, we never talk about how internal our work is, because most people are writing from their own experiences or what they've seen, whether it's joy, trauma, whatever. And so having a space where we are filled from in here allows us to get to a place where we are, as the West Indians would say, are drinking from the saucer, because your cup is overflowed, right? Like I want to live a life where I am drinking from the saucer consistently.
Yes.
And so I thank you for the work that you do for yourself to bring yourself joy and success and progress, but also seeing it not robbery to spread that information to the community at large, to help them see that for themselves and whatever that respectively looks like for them too.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much for having me. This was I love doing things like this. Like I love having conversations, and I love sharing. And so thank you so much. And this was such a great conversation. I would love to come back. So don't forget about me.
We're gonna bring you
back,
girl. See, no, my intention is for you to come back and do like a quick visualization kind of exercise for the audience.
Well, I could do that.
I know. So we're gonna get you back. Let's see how crazy the world gets between now and like the spring, and we all gonna probably need that. So the way we going, we're gonna need a little bit of your restoration and restorative visualization in a minute. So we'll have you back.
All right.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning into a conversation with the amazing Kristin Iris Johnson, the incomparable Okima Timur. And I'm your humble host, Floyd Marshall Jr. Make sure that you listen to this episode again and again and again, because there are so many gems that Kristin dropped tonight. And, it's something that could help you in your career. But more importantly, ladies and gentlemen, the authenticity part that she talked about really resonated with me. So it can really help you in your everyday life. So I'll end it as I always do. I'm just so emotional. It was such a phenomenal show. So I got a little tongue tied, but I will end it as I always do. Love it like a hobby, but treat it like a business. Everyone have an absolutely amazing, amazing night. Peace.
Good night, guys.